In this video, I'll give you wide receiver values that can be found throughout different parts of your fantasy football drafts. I'm Jim Coventry of Rotowire. Look, there are very few values at wide receiver 6, which is what A.J. Brown has been going in recent days per Fantasy Mojo ADP. But look, A.J. Brown in my mind is actually a value there. And why do I say that? A.J. Brown is going after other receivers and some running backs. A.J. Brown, since he's been in Philadelphia, I want you to understand that in his 2 years there, he's averaging 96 catches, 1,476 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Those numbers are not better than Tyreek Hill. Justin Jefferson, if he hadn't been hurt last year, they're not better than him. List ends. That's it. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown had one better year last year, but the 2-year average is not close. Jamar Chase, his best season doesn't match the yardage that Brown's averaging. Yet A.J. Brown is considered after. Why? Well, we're worried about targets. Yes, he had 158 last year. That was getting in that alpha range, right where we like him. It was getting there. But last year's offense was dysfunctional after the second half of the season. Through the first half of the season, A.J. Brown was on pace for almost 2,000 yards. And then defenses and coaches figured out, Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni, whether it was the coordinator or head coach, I really don't know who was calling those plays. But once defenses realized we're putting a shell over the top and we're going to make them work to beat us, the coaching staff had zero answers. A.J. Brown's fantasy season and the rest of the Eagles was effectively over. Johnson gets bounced. Kellen Moore comes in. I know we have different opinions on Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore designs a very good passing game. Starts with a downfield attack, stretches the defense out, and then he builds underneath concepts. A.J. Brown is going to be a huge beneficiary of an offense that will have answers when defenses try to counter the downfield passing attack. A.J. Brown, and don't lose sight of this, when he is used in a multi-dimensional way, he's a running back with the ball in his hands if you get him in space and get the ball in hands quickly. He can beat you over the top. He can win in traffic. He is the ultimate threat. I consider him tied with Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, and if I left anybody out as the best receiver in the game, they just do it a little bit differently. So that said, Kellen Moore, after the 158 targets last year, could continue that level of target use. And if that happens, A.J. Brown could easily compete with the very top receivers in the game. The pace he had for 8 games last year, that was a real thing. He is capable of doing that, just like the other top receivers are. He just needs the volume. The floor is high. Remember, I'm saying it again. He averaged 96 catches, 1,476, and 9 touchdowns the last 2 years. So that's right around his floor. And if you're telling me there's a floor at wide receiver 6, you got to jump on that. All right. DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears is next. DJ Moore has seen his ADP go down from May until now. He was around the top 15 wide receivers back then. He's fallen outside the 20s. He settled in at wide receiver 21 in this very close of draft season. I don't know what people think about DJ Moore, but I've heard comments that say, well, DJ Moore was on bad offenses and he was always the guy and they force-fed him targets. If you watch DJ Moore play, DJ Moore earned every target he ever had. DJ Moore, like A.J. Brown, but not like A.J. Brown. He's a light version of A.J. Brown. He can win at all levels of the field. When he gets a ball placed in traffic, he is like a running back with the ball in his hands. Again, not to the level of A.J. Brown. Let's not compare those two. But again, similar in that they are dominant alpha receivers. Bears bring in Caleb Williams. Look, last year, DJ Moore put up 1,364 yards with Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent. 136 targets. Now, those targets could remain. Keenan Allen will be involved. Rome Odunze will be involved. But don't think for a minute the Bears do not realize the level of player that DJ Moore is and that he can win regardless of circumstance and situation. Keenan Allen's looks a little heavy in camp. We're worried about his age, 32. He's had an injury history. There's a little to worry about there. But even without that, DJ Moore's the guy. And last year, 27% of targets in the slot. And we know these receivers now that can play outside, inside, the X, the Z, Moore can do all that. They're the ones who are thriving. Moore had an 81st percentile yards after catch rate last year. Again, bet on the superstar player. You're getting him at a discount. Take the value. He could be a borderline wide receiver 1, but you're getting him for low-end wide receiver 2 cost. If you like videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the Rotowire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, you can check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial. No credit card needed. Just head on over to rotowire.com/Jim. You can check out all of our content. All right, you've heard me talk about them all summer, but you've got to hear me out one more time. Got to sell you on Amari Cooper if you're not drafting him. Amari Cooper, wide receiver, 29. He was in the 30s. His ADP smoked up a little bit, but Amari Cooper, look, 2 years with the Browns, and they have had quarterback issues, yet Cooper's averaging 75 catches, 1,205 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Those are wide receiver 20-ish numbers, if not a little bit better. And yet you're getting almost 10 spots later in drafts. Now, people are going to be worried. Man, Deshaun Watson, he's not so good. I'm going to solve this right now. Cooper and Watson played 5 games together last year. Only one of those games did Cooper see double-digit targets, yet Cooper had at least 90 yards in 4 of the 5 games with Deshaun Watson. I have no problems at all with Cooper working with Watson. Cooper missed 2 games last year, otherwise he's been a reasonably healthy player. He got paid this offseason. He was asking for money. The team gave him the money. They're buying into him. He's the centerpiece of the passing game. Watson does like to go downfield. Cooper has shown he can win downfield as well. Yes, he's going to his age 30 season. He's yet to show signs of slowing down. I don't think there's any reason to think there's another year of elite production in the bag for Amari Cooper. All right, Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers left, wide receiver 32. When we look at his numbers, we see in the last 3 years, he's been between 1,024 yards and 1,103 yards. It's a real tight window. It's good numbers. It's not great numbers. Touchdowns, 2, 3, and 5, not good at all. Targets have always been great, between 127 and 142 the last few years. Now, that 1,100-yard season he had in 2021, he only played 14 games. So he was on pace for a much better season than that. But here's what I need you to know about Chris Godwin. Last year, Chris Godwin was a floor play. It was mostly 10 or fewer PPR points in 9 games through week 14. He was not a ceiling play at all. And really, in 4 of his last 5 games when he improved, he had at least 11.5 PPR points, but it wasn't a lot more. He just did not have upside. 1 game over 20 points all year, PPR scoring. So what do I like differently? Well, last year, Godwin was playing on the outside most of the time. And we know Godwin can play there, but Godwin is one of the best slot receivers in the game. Liam Cohen comes over to coach the team from the Rams. And Kentucky played, but nonetheless, Sean McVay disciple, right? Well, now we're going to see this. First thing I heard Cohen say about Godwin, yep, he's going back to the slot. Well, of course he's going to the slot because he's a dominant player in the slot. And what we're going to see with Cohen, now remember this, and this is we're going to make a little bit of a guess, but it's not a bad guess. We know Godwin has a floor. He's going to get that 1,000 yards, so you're kind of good there. Here's where we got to hope that we get this right. In those Rams offenses, we've seen Cooper Kupp. We've seen Puka Nacua. We've seen, well, different role, but DeMarcus Robinson. We've seen those Nacua and Kupp as those interior guys. Moved around, tight formations. They can block. They can release. They've been thriving players. If Godwin is using any type of role that Kupp or Nacua has been used in, you could see the season you have never seen from Godwin before. The floor is great, but if you're going to buy into that possibility of him being used in a Ram-style offense, sign me up all day long. Last one, super late. If you're in a small league, you're probably not drafting him, but if you're in a deeper league, you can get Wan'dale Robinson, wide receiver 71 off the board. Drafted as wide receiver 60. I would give him right around 60, and I'd call it a day. Look, Wan'dale Robinson's career has been plagued by injury. Rookie year, tears his ACL, so there goes that one. Last year, through the week 13 bye, he was terrible. 1 game with 40 yards. That was it. Passed 40 yards once. Well, it looked to me like Wan'dale Robinson overcame the residuals of his ACL after that bye because he was a different player in his last 4 games. Remember I said only 1 game over 40 yards. Hits 55 or more in 3 of his last 4 games. 66% of the targets on the slot, but I expect him to play outside and inside, play both. Get to the Malik Neighbors point in a minute. Robinson was 68th percentile yards after the catch. It's very good. Remember, he was battling back from an ACL. This is more of an 85th, 90th percentile yards after the catch guy. Now, Giants, look, they tried to address their defense. I'm not overly sold on it. They're going to trail. They're going to have to score points. Malik Neighbors is there. I said a moment ago. Neighbors is a great receiver. It's going to be great. He's going to have a lot of attention on him Daniel Jones is not the guy I see throwing the ball in the tight windows. But Wan'dale Robinson gets open almost instantaneously, and he gets open in the middle of the field, which is right in Daniel Jones' sight line. Wan'dale Robinson is to be a busy fellow this year. And with his yard after the catch ability, he is an electric player that we haven't quite seen play at the level he will. He's healthy. Removed another year from that ACL.